Hello everybody, and welcome to Amateur Cast, where I get you and your replays to be casted for my entertainment, and hopefully to help you improve a little bit as well. I'm your host, ZookaMan, and we're going to be going into a PvP. Without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our players. Now, in the 10, 11 o'clock position, we have Arch Colossuses, I believe. That's how you say that. CoffeeBreak as the red Protoss player, and his opponent on the opposite side of the map. From Clan Unruly, we have Mixcoatl, I believe. Coatl? Something like that. Something along those lines. Now, PvP matchup. What are we seeing in the PvP matchup? Well, the matchup in general is a fairly versatile matchup. A lot of what I've been seeing a lot from the casts that I've seen and the casts that I've had the opportunity to cast myself is that I've been seeing Stalker openings, sometimes with Link. You don't normally see a whole lot of Stalkers, you don't normally see a large number of Sentries in the early game. Sometimes you'll see an earlier expansion, but it's not necessarily standard in the matchup. And on this map, it might be a little bit less so, considering that the map has kind of, no matter really where you spawn, I mean, there's 3 spawn positions up in the bottom and on either side. But it's kind of a small map, so really I don't think that the matchup is going to be used a lot of early expansions unless one of our players feels super comfortable going into it. Both players are going to be following a very similar build, double gas at the 14 mark, 13 gateway, 16 pylons, fairly standard and fairly on time. I'm going to be interested to see what our players end up doing in that regard. We already do have the gateway on the way. Cybernetics core is on its way as well. For CoffeeBreak, a few seconds before we... actually, that's actually quite a bit of difference there from our blue Protoss player doing rather late Cybernetics core, and it kind of... it's not even really, like, affecting his economy. Like, he didn't get a couple of extra probes on accident and whatnot. So that's going to be the advantage in the early game. Go over to CoffeeBreak because he's just going to have the units out sooner. He's going to be able to get the Stalkers out sooner so he can stop the scouting, which is what he looks like he's wanting to be doing here. So he's definitely an advantage. However, this isn't like going to make the game swing too far in favor of him. So he's not like just going to win because of the fact that Cybernetics core is a little bit late, but is going to be helping him out a little bit. CoffeeBreak is going to be coming up onto his mothership core. He's going to be getting his Warp Gate tech, standard. Protoss player going to be doing the same thing. We do have a probe just kind of chilling out in the main base from CoffeeBreak. Another gateway, he's going to be added on from our Protoss player at this point. And I'm a little bit curious to see what that's going to be. Meanwhile, we're seeing CoffeeBreak going up onto a Stargate tech in the back of his main base. And this makes me think Oracles. Possible that we could be seeing Void Rays, but I really don't think with the amount of units that we have on the map that that's really necessarily the best plan. If he was doing a proxy Stargate, maybe Void Race, like over here and then just get in the main base, maybe he can do that. But I honestly think Oracles are just a better decision right now. And they're just able to get in and get a lot of damage done if your opponent is not expecting it. And so far, Protoss player is going to be going up onto 3 gateways, 4 gateways, 4-gate robo. Not necessarily what you want to be doing on one base. Would be interested to see our blue Protoss player take an expansion in a little bit here. CoffeeBreak going up on his as well. We do have an Oracle coming out of his Stargate. And there's not really much back home to defend this. He does have a Mothership core. He does also have a Stalker. There's no, like, cannons on the map or anything to help defend against this. And he needs at least another Stalker. I think he's building more. Yep, he's building more. So the Oracle might be able to go in and get a little bit of damage done. But definitely not going to be doing a game-ending amount of damage as long as we don't see the Stalkers get pulled out of position or something, which would be a little bit unfortunate for him. Natural expansion is about 3/4 of the way done here from CoffeeBreak, which means that he's going to be taking a little bit of advantage as well. Stalker is going to get stuck in the main base. Oh, I hate when that happens, when you put the pylon in position where it just makes that Stalker pop up really in an awkward position. We are missing the Oracle coming up into the main base. CoffeeBreak is going to be getting a little bit supply block there because he's going to kill off his own pylon. Always a tough thing to have to do. We also are going to be seeing the Oracle coming up into the main base. It's going to get 1 probes, 2 probes, red probes, blue probes, and by that, of course, I mean he just got 2 probes and was pretty much taken care of from there. We're going to be seeing more production being the choice from our blue Protoss player, but not yet taking a natural expansion, which is a little bit curious. Personally, this makes me think that he's probably going to be going for a push in the mid game here, and having a few probes that he needs to take care of over there from CoffeeBreak. But I really feel like he's going to be pushing out here. There's really no reason for him to not take a natural expansion if he's not planning on doing that. We already have a 4 pylon coming up, so that's probably what it's going to be. I think he probably should wait for the Immortal to get up to push out, but he should be in a pretty decent position. CoffeeBreak is going to be clearing away the plates at his natural expansion. Does have a 4-way following up here. I don't see him taking too much damage from this. It kind of depends upon how well the Immortal can get the damage off. Really, there's a large, really, all of the army right now from CoffeeBreak is Stalkers. So it is going to be fairly effective. And so CoffeeBreak going to be laying down a Twilight Council to go up into a Blink follow-up, I'd have to assume, as there are no Zealots on the map. Charge, definitely not a bad thing to do, but you definitely see Blink a lot more in the matchup. Blue Protoss player is not going to be expanding behind him as attack, which is a little bit of a missed opportunity. That's something for all of you new players out there who are trying to learn the game. Always expand behind your attack. That way that if you're not able to get a whole bunch of damage with your Stalkers or whatever, you're able to have the economy to back up on. We're going to be seeing the Protoss player coming up in the main base. Proton Overcharge has been activated, but there's quite a bit going to be taken out here. Void Ray is going to be going down. The Monster Core went down as well, but the Protoss player of the blue is going to be backing out, feeling like he doesn't really have the units to be able to take care of this. Personally, I think he probably could have stayed in more and got a little bit more damage done. However, it's always better to be safer than sorry. Now that CoffeeBreak is up on that natural expansion, he's putting himself in a pretty decent position, especially in his Harvester count, which is 41 to 26 in his favor right now, and that's really, really good at this point. We're going to be seeing the Observer come up into the main base, natural expansion, excuse me, and kind of scout out the army over here. Back home, there really isn't much coming out from our Blue Protoss player, which makes me think he's probably going to be securing out for another kind of push in. That's exactly what he's going to be doing at this point. Moving in once again to that natural expansion. There is no Mothership Core. Oh, no energy. That's going to be a little bit unfortunate, but there are Zealots on the map to be able to tank quite a bit of shots. We have a Immortal over his own from CoffeeBreak, and I feel like he's going to be in a pretty decent position here as long as he can keep that alive. That's going to be the important part. However, it is going to be looking like the CoffeeBreak is going to take a lot of damage here. He's going to lose his Mothership Core. We don't have another Void Ray on the map right now, and it's going to be able to help take care of Stalkers. That being said, though, it is going to get focused down. And CoffeeBreak might be able to hold on just barely here, but he's going to take quite a bit of damage in the meantime. I mean, he's going to be losing a lot of units here, which is going to put unit loss tab definitely in his opponent's favor, because he's going to lose a lot of units, a lot of resources, and that's a little bit unfortunate for him to have to go through at this point. We do have the natural expansion following, and that's going to be, again, really good for our Blue Protoss player, because he is going to have something out of this. However, I'd like to see him drop down his natural expansion back home, and that is exactly what he's going to be doing. So he's going to be putting himself in a pretty decent position. CoffeeBreak, not too bad of a position, just needs to keep up on getting some Immortals out. I think that's going to be the biggest thing here. Maybe a Void Ray or two overhead, just to make sure that he's able to take care of this. However, he does have a couple of sentries up on the map, so he's able to take care of it. Oh, Mothership Core is going to go down. That's a little bit unfortunate. And our Blue Protoss player deciding, hey, I got enough damage done, I can fall back now. He's going to be getting a couple of additional Stargates as well, which means that I'm probably going to be seeing Void Ray production. That would be my best guess. I don't expect to see Oracle production. It's a little bit too late in the game to be able to do a whole lot of damage with them. You might be able to run around and get a little bit of scouting. But Void is definitely going to be probably the big thing, and I really think that's actually a pretty decent idea from him if his opponent was going for a large number of Stalkers. And the problem with this is that he's not, because we saw the composition from our opponent. True, yes, we saw Blink coming out before the charge. Speaking of which, charge would be a good thing to grab now as well. But he's going to need the Blink Stalkers in a little bit here to be able to hold on because he doesn't have the charge. And Zealots without charge aren't necessarily nearly as effective as they could be. We're going to be seeing our Blue Protoss player, Mix, going to be going up onto his Twilight Council. This is probably going to be for Blink. It could be for charge, but there aren't really a whole lot of Zealots in this army. Not that there really has to be a whole lot in order for them to be effective. CoffeeBreak is going to be establishing his natural expansion once again. He is going to have that up, actually not that far behind his opponent. I believe he kept most of the harvesters. Nope, we're going to have 33-33. So, as far as the economy goes, both players are doing pretty much even on that regard. There's not really a huge amount of tech in either one of these players' favor. We do have +1 coming up from CoffeeBreak, as well as the continued Immortal production. But besides that, they're really on the same amount of tech. Stalkers, Immortals, and soon to be Void Rays coming up from Mix in a little bit here. He does have his double gases being taken down as well. And CoffeeBreak is not going to have these assimilators saturated quite yet. Is going to be going to do that now. Doesn't need to get a few more units in this army. I feel like he's not in the best position in the terms of his units. I mean, he has a decent enough composition, but I feel like charge and a few more zealots would make this a lot more potent. We have a couple of zealots moving out across the map, going to be taking care of this pylon. We also are going to be seeing an observer drop up into the main base to scout everything that Mix is going to be going for at this point. So he's going to be able to react accordingly. I believe he's going to be seeing the Stargates, which are going to be going up into Void Ray production. He is going to be seeing that there's something coming out of the Twilight Council. And at this point, it could be either Blink or Charge from Mix. It is going to be Charge. But it is going to tell him that he's going to be getting one of those things. CoffeeBreak is also going to be going up on his +1 as air to make his Void Rays a little bit more effective, which I definitely do agree with. However, I think that a good tech path for him to go into is to start moving up into Archon tech, so that he's able to deal with the Void Rays of his opponent, or maybe just into TIE Templar or something, so that he's able to take care of the Void Rays of his opponent. But you don't want to be under fire of too many Stalkers. I mean, he does have 3 Immortals on the map right now, so Blink Stalkers are definitely not going to be the most effective right now from Mix. However, I think that, with enough of them, he sure is to do well, and he does have the double Void production available, at least. He doesn't really have the resources to continue to do that right now. Speaking of which, both 4 players can afford to take a third base at this point, and I feel like that's a good position for both of them to be in, unless they're planning to move out and do another attack. Mix doesn't look like he's going to be wanting to do that. He's going to be just sitting back, getting a little bit of macro up. Does go for his shields first, which is a little bit interesting. I suppose that they're going to be benefiting the entire army, as opposed to just the ground or the air. But normally you don't see the shield upgrades. One of the reasons you see the shield upgrades, and one of the times you do see them, is if you're getting Archons up, because Archons are very powerful with shield upgrades. They benefit more with the shield upgrades than the armor upgrades. But I feel like the shield upgrades are used because he doesn't have his... Well, he does have his Twilight Council up, so I'm not really sure exactly what the whole plan is, why he's using the shields. He's going to go up on his +1 in his air as well. He's going to be dropping down his Fleet Bacon, and yes, I did say bacon because bacon is delicious. He's going to be also dropping down an additional Stargate. So we're probably going to be seeing either Carriers or Tempests here. And I don't know which one would be more effective. I think probably the Tempest, simply because it would be a little bit more difficult for CoffeeBreak to be able to punish. I suppose he does have a large amount of Void Rays on the field right now, so he could punish that fairly easily. But Carriers are definitely not going to help him here, considering that there are the Void Ray counts that we see on the map right now, and I believe Carriers are armored, so they kind of will just melt under the Void Ray production. Third base is up and operational for Mix. Now we do have CoffeeBreak taking his as well. Not Twilight Council, excuse me. Templar Archive is going to be on the way for our red Protoss player. Is going to be going up onto a couple of additional gateways as well. And he's looking to be in a pretty decent position. Both of these players actually looking to be in a pretty decent position. Mix could drop down another geyser over here and make sure that he populates this. And I wouldn't mind seeing him moving up into Archons or Storms as well. probably Archons, because Storms are only going to be effective against the Void Rays, and there aren't really a lot of Void Rays on the map right now. However, Tempests are going to be going on the field at this point. We do have that +2 weapons on the air as well. And we're going to be seeing CoffeeBreak going up onto Storm Tech as well, which is not too bad. I personally would like to see the Archons. I think the Archons are a little bit more solid, and maybe he'll still get those. We'll have to see if that is going to be going on, or if he's just going to be getting the Storms to make sure that the Void Rays are not quite as effective. Well, obviously that's what he's doing, but we'll be interested to see if he's going for Archons with that, or if it's just going to be the Storm. And he'll have to be careful about using the Storms effectively so that he doesn't get caught on the army and not really do as much damage. And though I suppose that the Storms are really effective against Zealots if they get up on them, but not necessarily the most used spell in the matchup, actually. The few times that you do see Storm, it's usually against a heavier Void Break composition like we see Mix going for right now. Well, both players are essentially going for that right now, especially with those Tempests added in. Those, I think, are going to be the really big problem right now for CoffeeBreak, and I don't think that he'll have too much of a problem dealing with this. He'll just have to be careful and be able to take out any link under them if you can, or send the Void Rays over to focus fire them down or something like that. We'll have to see exactly what that is going to be doing. Tempests are going to be really mass-produced at this point, which is a little bit interesting to see. Normally, you don't see Tempest in the matchup unless you see your opponent on large numbers of Colossus. Tempests are actually very effective at picking off Colossus, but I'm not necessarily sure why he's building them in the matchup right now. Maybe he's trying to get a little bit more damage off with his army on his opponent before his opponent can do anything. But a blink underneath these... Oh, excuse me. But a blink underneath these would be able to do quite a bit of damage, and really Archons in themselves would be able to do quite a bit of damage as well. Mix is going to be adding on a Dark Shrine at this point, so he can get the nice Dark Templar, move in and maybe get a couple of probes here and there off of his opponent, and put himself into a decent economic position. We do have the Fleet Beacon on its way from our Protoss player. I believe that's probably just for his 3-3 in the air. It could also be for Tempest or carriers of his own. I don't necessarily see that, but then again, I don't necessarily see Tempest in the first place in the matchup, unless, once again, you have the number of clauses and you're using them to snipe them. CoffeeBreak is going to go on a 4th base. Mix looking like he wants to take a 4th base up here as well, or maybe over here. Yep, there comes the 4th base over there. So both of these players are doing pretty decent on their macro. I don't know why I said micro. Now, the Tempests are going to be revealed because that Pro, I believe, died in the middle of the map. So CoffeeBreak is going to be able to scout that and be able to react accordingly. But it does look like Mix is wanting to move out, maybe. This is a little of an awkward position, considering maybe he's taking 5th base over here. That would be a really quick 5th base, though. Here comes a major engagement coming up in the middle of the map. Void Rays are going to be getting up onto the army. The Zealots are going to be charging up against each other, but the Archons are going to be getting a lot of damage done. Storms are going to be coming up on the army to get a little bit more damage done. We also are going to be seeing the Guardian Shields, but I think that CoffeeBreak has this. The Storms are going to be able to take out all the Void Rays. All the Void Rays are going to go down. All the units from Mix are going to go down. CoffeeBreak is going to be pulling back. Not necessarily sure why he's doing that. His Dark Shrine is up on the field at this point. So the engagement definitely going in favor of the Archons right now. And yes, the Tempests are still on the map. Something we have to keep in mind is... Oh, hey, Tempests have two different weapons. I forgot about that. Gases are going to be taken at the 4th base from CoffeeBreak. 4th base is up from Mix up as well. And there are quite a few Stalkers in this composition. It's going to kind of transition away from the Void Rays. He's going to put a few more in there. Mix is definitely going to be transitioning all the way away from them, going into this, what's essentially going to be mass Tempest at this point. Adding on more and more Tempest, just now finishing up with his +3 in the air. So his Tempests are going to be able to do quite a bit of damage. However, CoffeeBreak does have the advantage of mobility on his side, as well as the storming capabilities from his High Templar, and I feel like he has just the better composition at this point in the game. And against what his opponent is doing, this is pretty decent. The Archons will be able to take care of the Tempest very efficiently. The Stalkers will be able to blink up under them, and really the Immortals are going to stop any sort of Stalkers of the opponent. Of course, the Storms are going to be able to stop any sort of Void Rays that we see, and they're going to be able to do quite a bit to the Tempest as well. And really, Mix is going to be going up onto a lot of Tempest. He's going to be adding in more Stalkers, more Zealots, and adding in Archons, adding in a lot of things, but I really feel that this is too many Tempests. We're also going to be seeing a little bit of a run by with Zealots up here in the northern base. But I feel like this is just too many Tempests at this point. Don't get me wrong, I don't think Tempests are bad. Tempests are very good at what they do, but what they do is only very good in small situations. I don't think you really need more than 5 to 6 of them at a time, and I really don't think that you need upwards of 11, 12. That's just a little bit too many in my opinion, because they don't really add anything to the matchup, add anything to the composition that as their own units they can be helpful in the composition, but the Tempests themselves don't do much unless they have the protection of units on the ground to be able to keep them alive. As soon as this army on the ground is just exterminated, CoffeeBreak will be able to eliminate the Tempest with ease, and really the Tempests aren't doing that much damage. The biggest advantage to the Tempest is that it's able to do it at a long distance. I mean, it's only doing about 39 damage, which is not really much when you think about it, especially with like hardened shields or Archons with a bunch of shields, or even to that extent the charge lots, which just tank a lot of things once you get the armor out for them. We're going to be seeing the engagement coming up in this base over here. Lots of Tempests are going to be firing off on the units, but here we're seeing the exact problem with the Tempest in the matchup, in the composition, excuse me, right now, is that they don't really have the support, in the numbers that they don't really have the support in the ground to be able to continue to build them. I mean, at this point, CoffeeBreak is just able to build in the Stalkers, build in the Archons, build in the Storms, and he's perfectly fine with it. He'll be able to keep killing the ground army, and then just be able to blink off under them, hit them once or twice with a couple of volleys of Stalkers, and suddenly, after a couple of volleys, the Tempests are taken care of, which is a little bit of a problem, if you think about it from Mix's side of things. I feel like he needs more in this ground army and less in the Tempest. I feel like he's invested a lot into this. That's not really essentially paying off at this point. He's going to be going up into carriers now, which I disagree with completely, considering that there are so many Blink Stalkers on the field right now. The Blink Stalkers are just able to get up onto the carriers and really just stop them. And at this point, CoffeeBreak doesn't really even need to directly engage this army. He's able to go in, snipe a fourth base, snipe a third base, back off. Tempest being so slow, it's going to make things a little bit more difficult for him. We're already seeing engagement coming up here at the 5th base of CoffeeBreak. We're already seeing the Blink Stalkers come up, and really they're going to be able to take care of those Tempests with absolutely no problem. I'm sure he's taking the damage, but a couple more Warpins of Stalkers will really be able to take care of this. I don't see any really big reasons with the Tempest right now. Big problems with the Tempest, at least. 5th base is not going to be cancelled, which is a little bit unfortunate considering that may go down. CoffeeBreak is just going to let that go down, not going to be risking any more forces than he absolutely needs to. One carrier is on the way, but of course it is going to be coming in very slowly. Carriers have a very, very long build time. But here comes the CoffeeBreak moving in at this point. Going to be getting a couple of Tempests here. 1 Tempest down, 2 Tempests down, 3 Tempests down, 4 Tempests are down at this point. 5 Tempests are going to be going down. And really, CoffeeBreak just can be able to take care of all the Tempests. And this is really all that Mix has. So, CoffeeBreak, yeah, he has a Dark Templar kind of messing up his Blink Stalkers. But really, if he gets rid of the Tempests, that's the only thing that Mix has. And exactly, we're going to be seeing the GG coming up from him. Just not able to sustain this. So what do I think we can, what we can learn from this, guys? Well, for one thing, CoffeeBreak a little bit high on the minerals at the end of the game, but most people, once they get max at this point in the game, have that problem, especially when you have a low gas count. But I feel like the composition was very much in favor of CoffeeBreak throughout most of the game. The Tempest, I feel like there were well, like I said before, I feel like there were just too many Tempests. I think that's one of the biggest downfalls of Mix. He macroed well, he got bases at the right time, but I feel like it was just his composition that pulled him down. The Tempests are a good unit when they're supported correctly. They're kind of like the carrier in that regard. You have to have an army behind them in order for them to be as effective as they are. They are not necessarily too good as an army themselves. One of those reasons being they are very, very slow units. They move super slow. So Blink Stalkers are very good against them, obviously, because they're able to blink under them, and the mobility is just going to be their downfall, as well as the fact that if you have the Tempest in the background army firing off at the important units, like if your opponent's going Void Rays, taking out a few Void Rays, taking out a few Colossus, taking out a few Tempests of your opponent, getting those strong units down, if you can do that, then you have a better chance to win the fight with your ground army below. But I feel like once you start putting too many Tempests in the army, the Tempests really aren't able to do the damage that they need to, and they're not able to snipe the units because they're constantly under fire by the Stalkers or the Archons, and they're not able to do enough damage on their own to be able to carry an army. Alright, folks, that being said, one quick announcement before we sign off for the night. On the 28th of June, which is coming up very quickly, that is the end of the month, is going to be my upcoming summer tournament that I am planning to make. I'm super excited from that. Right now, we do have 2 people signed up. If you would like to play, send an email to ZookaMan900@gmail.com with your race, your league, and the account that you're going to be using. And you can say, I want to play and stuff like that. And we'll get you signed up and get you in the bracket and stuff like that. Registration will be ending at the end of this, not this week, but I believe next week. What's the day? Yes, yeah, and at the end of this week. So I'll probably say on Sunday of this week, registration will be closed. Besides that, folks, I believe that's everything that needs to be said. This has been ZookaMan, and we'll see you on the next cast.